A few years back, Danny and Michael Philippou made a huge impact with their first horror movie titled Talk to Me. Now they're back with a brand new scary film called Bring Her Back. But the big question is, does it live up to their last hit or does it fall short? Let's get started on my review of Bring Her Back. Let's go.
From the town I like nothing when I'm hopefuls lit. A small city or some, but mostly no one forgets. On the outskirts of where I've been dreaming since a kid. Thought I was cursed to never see a radio hit. A Grammy to industry or something even close. Miles outside.
What's going on, all my beautiful people? This is Jacey, and I just got back from watching an early screening of Bring Her Back. Before I do start my review, please note this will be a spoiler-free review, just in case you haven't seen it yet, showing in theaters this weekend. Also, please make sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date on more new horror movies that I'm reviewing just like this. So, Bring Her Back stars Sally Hawkins, Billy Barrett, Jonah Ren Phillips, Sora Wong, and more. A brother and sister uncover a terrifying ritual at the secluded home of their new foster mother. So when I saw this trailer a couple months back, I was pretty amped up about it. One, because I loved Danny and Michael Philippou's Talk to Me that was released a few years ago. I remember it being one of my favorite horror movies of that year. And not only had some suspense, it had some thrills, it had scares, and a pretty unique concept. Even the way the ending was, it really shocked me. Also, I mean, do I even have to mention that they've been YouTubers before? All the way around, it's just an inspiration to see two former YouTubers direct a movie. And horror is like one of my favorite genres of film. So when this film was announced, as well as the trailers were shown, I was definitely in for it. Now, going into this movie, I thought, okay, if you put in a unique story, you do what you did with Talk to Me, I'll definitely love this film. But what I did not expect to see in the theaters was a sad story with some horror elements. And trust me when I say that's not a bad thing, you guys, but I really did not expect that. Let me explain some things that I did like about it and some things that I felt they could have done better. Bring Her Back is a dark and emotional story that dives into the pain of losing someone you love. The movie follows Andy and his blind stepsister Piper, played by Sora Wong, and she does a marvelous job. Not only that, but they are sent to live with a strange foster mom named Laura, played by Sally Hawkins, who does an even better job. Now, I've been watching her for quite a few years, all the way from Shape of Water to the first two Paddington films, as well as in Wonka a few years ago. I've always loved her as an actress, but seeing her in this type of role definitely threw me off. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some parts in there that are very creepy, also unsettling and disturbing at points. You see it right away from not only the dread that starts to build from the beginning sequence of why Andy and Piper are led to this home that Laura is now their foster parent, but also a lot of things that linger throughout some of the film. I would have liked some questions to have been answered. There were certain things that I walked out of the theater kind of scratching my head thinking, well, we never really got an explanation about this, or we really never knew who this was, or what happened there in this sequence. But one of the things that is good about this movie is that those unanswered questions don't hinder the film too much. It's still entertaining for sure. The movie starts strong with a sad but touching scene between the siblings, but things quickly go downhill when something happens and they're forced to move to Laura's home. From there, the story focuses on how grief can make people do scary things. While some of the supernatural parts are confusing and feel like they're setting up a sequel, the emotional journey of the kids keeps the story grounded. The ending was something I also didn't expect. Instead of horrified like Talk to Me, it left me sad and full of sorrow. There were some points where I felt, wow, I kind of want to tear up. But nonetheless, it manages to surprise in a few moments. Now, let's talk more about the acting because that is one of the best parts of this film. Sally Hawkins plays Laura with a mix of sweetness and danger. She can seem gentle one moment and terrifying the next, which is why it really threw me off to see her in a role like this, but I loved her growth as an actor and how she pulled off this character. Her performance makes you feel both sorry for her and afraid of her. It's clear she's hiding something, and watching her true intentions slowly come out is chilling. There were certain parts where I was like, wait, is she doing what I think she's doing? Is she kind of, wow, okay. Now, Billy Barrett does a great job as Andy, a teen trying to stay strong for his sister while dealing with a lot of trauma. You can really feel his stress and sadness as he tries to figure out what's going on, and he tries to protect Piper throughout this film. And speaking of Piper, she is played by Sora Wong, and she brings a quiet strength to that character. And even though her character is blind, she plays her with courage and cleverness. Now, Jonah Rand Phillips, who plays Oliver, stands out too. Even without saying a word, he delivers a creepy and powerful performance through his expressions and movement. There were times where I thought, man, this kid is creepy. I'll be damned if I don't see him in another role in horror, because I think he can pull off some stronger roles within that creepiness. When it comes to the horror, this is something I do want to address, because by no means is this a bad film, but it isn't as good as Talk to Me, primarily because I feel like the horror was kind of lacking in certain points in this movie. This movie doesn't rely on jump scares or flashy ghosts, which is fine. The horror here comes from a mix of creepy behavior, disturbing images, and deep emotional pain. Oliver's actions are some of the most upsetting parts. He acts like a wild animal at times and even harms himself in ways that are hard to watch. One scene in particular with the kitchen knife is very unsettling and also had me squirming in my seat, to say the least. Trust me, you'll know when you see it. Now, this is where I do get into my plot holes and questions that I feel like weren't really answered in the film. There are some strange tapes that show what looks like to be a ritual, and they add an eerie feeling even though the movie never really explains much about them. That was one thing that had me scratching my head when I left. But Danny and Michael Philippou use things like mirrors, glass, and water to create a sense of confusion and dread. While some of the scary parts feel underused or unclear, the real horror is in what you see Laura do or attempt to do with these kids that are now staying with her, and I felt like that's where it kept it captivating and entertaining for the most part. And a lot of that has to do with, again, Sally Hawkins' performance, which is stellar. Although I would have loved for the ending to go a little differently, it still ends in somewhat of a satisfying ending. I still say this is worth the watch though if you are a fan of horror or even trauma horror. Certain films like Ari Aster's Midsommar or even Hereditary, I wouldn't say it's to that extent or that level of trauma horror, but it's still up there, and I feel like it was pretty sad and had me kind of emotional at the end of this movie. Now, with all that being said, you guys, I'm gonna give Bring Her Back 3.5 flames out of 5 and a pretty fire film rating.
It's nice.
Bring Her Back is an emotional and creepy movie with solid acting and a heavy story about loss and love gone wrong. While it doesn't explain everything and some parts feel a little slow or confusing, the strong performances and dark mood make it worth watching. It's not a perfect film by any means, but it leaves a strong impression and proves that the Philippou brothers aren't afraid to dig into the pain behind the scares. Which, I gotta hand it to them, you guys. I'm pretty impressed with how far they've gone so far. Now, although this one isn't as good as Talk to Me, and it is slightly different, for sure I feel like these guys have a lane that they've carved out for themselves, and I can't wait to see what else they do. But alright guys, so have you seen this film yet, or are you looking forward to seeing it this weekend? Let me know in the comments below. The last thing before I do go, you guys, please make sure that you hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date. My name is Jacey, and until next time, I'm out.